and I have to watch this thing going around. Oh, we're live. Hello.
I can't hear anything.
I
Okay,
don't know
great.
why.
Hold on. Let me just keep trying to turn this up.
Okay. We're live, and I'm going to put on Black Randy. I said I would start with Black Randy, and I keep my promises, and I don't know why she can't, but we will. If she can't hear Black Randy, we'll have to work on it. But he's hard to miss. Okay, this is for everybody.
Got it.
You'll have to look at me. Maybe you can look at her. She's the tree because we can't get that to stop. That's her icon on the other, on her. You did on her mail, but right now, just because this is for Hillary Clinton and Arizona, which I don't believe. Also, it's only 4%.
Dick's fight back, say. They say the boulevard is no place to be. Big ball of coffee is alright with me. I can't live alone, I gotta be free. I hate my parents more than they hate me. Schools and factories make me sick. I'd rather stand here and sell my dick. Trouble at the cup, trouble at the cup, trouble at the cup. That boy on the boulevard, a worthy enemy. Black and white cars are watching me. Fucking pigs, traveling pairs. Beat on my friends, nobody cares. Sirens and coppers, still in the night. I'm sick of the pressure, I'm ready to fight. Trouble at the cup, trouble at the cup, trouble at the cup. My friends all are knives, they look real hard. I've got a gun for an ID card. Better get ready, don't travel alone. Hollywood Boulevard's a military zone. LPD, better get some tanks. We're gonna break your windows, we're gonna loot your phones. Trouble at the cup, trouble at the cup, trouble at the cup. I got no use for drugs, I never get high. I wanna shoot a cop, I wanna see him die. Riots in the 60s were all out of fun, but a lot of these pigs forgot how to run. We don't take it anymore. 78, time to get down, summer of hate. Trouble at the cup, trouble at the cup, trouble at the cup.
Okie dokie, that was for Hillary Clinton. I don't have a request for it from Hillary Clinton, but that is how I feel about her at this moment. Because as far as I know, and this is the last time I looked, she has already declared Arizona a win. We have 4% reporting, correct? Jenny, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm looking over here, and it says for Arizona, 9% reporting. And I don't know if that's the most up to date, but if only 9% are reporting, that is seems kind of premature to declare a win.
Yeah, I mean, but they keep doing that. I've noticed that over and over and over. I don't know whether she's declared the win, although she's declared wins when she hasn't won, like in Iowa, where she won by a coin toss and acted like she had won, you know, had been nominated. And so we don't have Idaho's results yet. All this red is light. And we don't have Utah's results yet. But
it says, the Idaho, it says results will be available soon. In Utah, it says results will be available soon. So they don't show any results here, at least from what I've found so far on Google. And Arizona only has 9%. I'm going to try to keep looking around for something else, for more up to date.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because if I keep looking at it, specifically since I can't see very well. Oh, there's my cat. That's Tycho back there. Just letting you know. If I keep looking at it when I can't see, I don't make a whole lot of sense after a while.
That's okay.
I also can't see me. I should go to the Google page, because I look very nice in this thing.
I can see you over there, and I'll test it on my phone.
No, I mean, I know I'm here.
Okay,
I don't know what people can see of me, because when I look at me obviously in this in the screen from Google Hangouts, it gives me an opposite image of what I get.
Oh yeah, it comes off backwards.
Yes. Oh, hang on one sec, and I'll get what were we going to say? Go on ahead.
Oh, I was trying to say, now I saw something from Arizona, and it sounded like she's projected to win, but that doesn't mean she's won. And people
Yeah.
are still in line voting, it sounds like.
Oh,
Um,
good.
the
No,
polls closing, it says here, oops, sorry, let me turn that off. It says Arizona, it looks like polls closing shut, some voters shut out. So it says 7 p.m. closing time upset some voters who were stuck in election traffic up in the Mesa. So I'm trying to, find out of state what's happening.
that's the kind of thing that's been happening in all of
Yeah.
the campaigns. You will find that there has been not enough ballots. There were not enough ballots in certain counties in Illinois. There have been, I know there's other states. The one I remember because it was one I read most recently was Illinois.
Yeah.
And turn this away because if I look good on there, I look horrible here. Okay. Sorry. God, I look terrible there, and I look wonderful in this. Okay.
It looked like voters were in line down to the end, and
People are, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and so I don't know if people were actually turned away, but it sounds like they were standing in line down to the last minute.
I believe that in other places, people were either turned away or they were put into lines that were hours and hours.
There's a feed here. I didn't want to put the sound on to interrupt, but it looks like there's a feed from Arizona, from Arizona someplace, and somebody shot pictures of people standing in line down the block.
Yeah, my impression is that they were trying very hard because a high voter turnout is a high voter turnout for Sanders. And the Clinton campaign and everyone else knows that nobody's getting in line to vote for Clinton like that because she's the expected projected winner all the time.
Yeah.
You don't have to vote for her like that. Nobody's going to stand in line for 6 hours to vote for someone that they assume is going to win anyway. They don't have to.
There's another note. Somebody tweeted here that Pima County had 130 polling places open, and Maricopa County, that has 4 times the voters, only had 60. Now, I don't live in Arizona, so I don't know how that quite worked, but it sounded like for some reason they didn't have enough polling places in some areas.
Even I don't live in Arizona, and I don't remember when we did live there for, I don't know, 3 weeks or something, a month. But I think that the same sort of problems are happening in every state that might be a toss-up. That is what I'm hearing, and that is what I'm reading. Every state that might be a toss-up has polling place problems, i.e. Nevada and the nurses, and of course the great the bus thing, where they're busing in homeless people and giving them money, which we all know has happened in LA.
Yeah.
And I'm certain, if she's running a campaign that could run potentially that cheaply, there's a real problem with it's to me just electing someone who could do these things. I mean, do we want to be a banana republic or not? Because that's banana republic stuff.
Yeah.
Do we want to do that or not? That's our choice. And the reason I put on Black Randy at first is because, not just because I love Black Randy and I actually figure out a song where he would offend some people, but the right people. He's just joking. Anyway. And
One of his songs that always sticks in my head is "I Slept in an Arcade." That was stuck in my head for the longest time.
I can play that one later. I mean, that one is only offensive to people who are offended by porn. So
actually, don't laugh. I thought it was a video arcade.
It's okay. When I first, I was like, that was an early thing. I was maybe 12 years old when I heard that. And I thought so too, so don't worry about it.
Oh, I'm not worried. I just think it's kind of funny because for the longest time, I was like, how would you sleep under a pinball machine? But never mind, I'm digressing.
It wasn't a pinball machine.
Yeah.
It was stickier underneath there than.
Yeah.
But God, one of these days I'll get something that will actually show what I look like so I can see, because I'm so self-conscious about this. Because when I was younger, I was, in front of cameras a lot, and whenever I look horrible, it really bothers me. And I think I look horrible more than other people do. But this is just yabber that has nothing to do with the election, and I really don't care that much about this. At some point, you get old enough and you can say, you should be 30 and do this, but it would take me a lot longer. And at some point, you should be able to say, well, this is a minor thing that shouldn't happen. And compared to the election, it is. It's a feminist issue. It's a sad and feminist issue that affects much more people than, various butt touchings, and I won't start. But it's not on target, because if I remember when I was, it's a tie, I promise you, though. I remember when I was in college, and you've heard this story before because you've known me since I was in college, but we were both in college.
Yep.
The whole thing about the Spartacus League, and my father was a communist. I come from the far left, and the woman made a large speech that was leading the meeting that week about how feminism does not matter until we have the revolution. And I thought, this is not real. It's not right, because the only way in the United States we're going to build a revolution at all is if we build it through small increments of allowing people who wouldn't normally have any interest in a revolution in. And feminism is one way to do that. I don't mean the same kind of incremental change that Hillary Clinton at all. Because with Hillary Clinton, her incremental change means no real change at all. Let's forget about change, because all that really matters is we stay the same and we yell and scream about things that don't exist. Excuse me, this is, as you know, this is my, moral panic issues are what I really care about. And
well, I think she's she's much more involved in keeping the status quo, even if she says incremental change. Incremental change can be a way of, let's just keep the status quo.
Yeah, that's all she cares about.
Yeah.
That's all she cares about, is keeping the status quo, and whatever she can, get for herself, whether it's money or, I think more important to her, the money.
There's something hanging across the screen.
Okay, I keep trying to move it. That's
okay.
What I'm doing.
Is that our fade out?
Yeah, it's a fade out. It's a hat, because
the fade out.
Here. And so that's a fade out. Is it still there?
No, it's gone now.
Okay, yeah, I moved. I used a hat instead of a glove because
okay.
It's bigger. And I think with her, it's less money because they have plenty of money.
Power is a big thing.
Power and legacy. Legacy. Who is the first woman president? It's her legacy and who controls who. And I will say this, and I will always say this because it's what I believe. I believe that a lot of the way she's doing so well, especially with the DNC, is twofold. One is that we've got this obsession with feminist, and it's not really feminist. I mean, I will quote, what was his name, Lee Camp, because I watched him a lot yesterday, and you'll know what I'm going to say, because it's a great line. What good is having a vagina if you act like a dick? And
he has a way with words.
He does.
Yeah.
And I really like his program. And so there's another person I can recommend besides Tim Black. And Anita, I had her name down. I could memorize it. Remember it. I'll give it. It's attached to my station. But what I was going to say is that, we've got two things that are driving the Hillary Clinton besides, well, the first one is the vagina vote, and that there are vagina voters out there that, that are very, they're very influential, like Jessica Valenti, who writes for now the Guardian. She's American, but she writes for the Guardian. She's really influential. She's younger than me, I think, and she knows how to say the most political correct things that you could possibly ever imagine anyone thing. You know, stuff that I wouldn't touch with with a barge pole. You know, and she stuff that doesn't even make sense. Like like this was in within 1 week. She was celebrating how page 3 out of, I think it's the Sun in England, no longer had boobs on its page 3. Okay, it was the Sun. And then 2 days later, she was angry because there was no pubic hair on. Pubic hair was taken down, I think, Instagram. It's like, what? You don't want boobs, but you want pubic hair. It's like, no boobs good, no pubes bad. No boobs good, no pubes bad for Animal Farm. So you've got people like her who think feminism is all about upper middle class women and their little tiny aches and pains. And so help me, that is what I think. I've seen enough people as a SPED teacher, when I was a SPED teacher, who fell through the cracks hard. They just don't fall. They never stop falling through the cracks. And, you know, a lot of those people never deserve to fall through a crack at all. It's just where they were kicked by life. And I have a late husband who was in jail, and my grandfather was in jail for not drugs but for activism. So I know some of this stuff, and a lot of the upper middle class feminist stuff is so ridiculous that it doesn't really count as political activism at all. It's not feminist. It's entitlement. And so you've got that Hillary voter who's always going to be there. And you've got, I think, a lot of, again, they don't have to be women, but they have to be of a certain class, which I am not of. And most of the people I know are not of. You know, you have to have a lot of money. And you have to enjoy the status quo the way the status quo is. I don't. Even if I was rich, I wouldn't. Because it's important to care for other people that aren't just yourself. And with Hillary Clinton, we're going to get that. The same nonsensical issues, the same lack of progress, the same faked progress at the edges. We'll get that with her. And the other thing I think that is powering her ascendancy is corruption. And I would bet a lot of whatever it is I am and whatever it is I may have, that is true. And it's really disturbing to see someone who wants such a radical, in quotes, title as first woman president resorting to the cheapest sorts of corruption available. Okay, I'm done. At least I think I made sense.
Yeah, I'm looking over here. I think that the Arizona polls have closed. I'm not in one place I see. So I think she may, unless one thing says only 9% reported, another one said they've closed. So at any rate, she's being called as the winner, but I don't know if the polls being closed means they've counted everybody, because one thing I saw, they had a lot of what they call provisional ballots.
Right.
Those are the ones where when I was a poll worker, we used to work a table, and there were special ballots, and they had to be checked out because maybe you weren't in the right polling place or whatever. So it's kind of, I'm not sure the results I don't have as accurate a results as I did when we did like Michigan or something. But
yes, I mean, I think most of the polls have closed. I think Idaho and Utah were closing around 37:30, and I don't know why they haven't come up with the results yet. In fact, I thought that we were going to be doing this later.
Yeah.
That's the purple thing. But anyway, I thought we were going to be doing this later so Tim Black could live blog it, because I think that there's no way I can do anything as well as he can in this realm at all. It's the best I've ever seen. And so, but we're sitting here, we're live blogging these tiny primaries, and I do remember that, these are tiny primaries, and they're not, the most important ones at all.
But they all have delegates. I mean, that's the big thing. They all include delegates. And I think that it says here, that one place claims that so far she seems to be winning and has 40 delegates and he has 16. Now, I don't know if they've counted everybody. That's the big thing I'm not sure of.
That's what I'm seeing here too.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing 21% reporting from Arizona. I'm not seeing anything reporting from Idaho or Utah. Sorry, I had something. I'm dehydrated as hell. And which is weird, because usually you see everyone, once the polls close, I'm going to start looking up results, Democratic results in Idaho. You know, if what we've got is a corrupt election, there's more to do than now than ever. Idaho and the other one, I'll try Idaho.
Okay. Oh, here's CNBC.
Okay. No, I have nothing. There's nothing. Idaho caucus and Utah. Utah is going to be interesting because most people in Utah are obviously Republican. And but the people I knew when we lived. Well, it's a long story. My second husband's brother lived in a garden there. um, and so we were there a lot. Um, when we were there, the people that were not Republican were very adamantly not Republican. They, because they felt really beaten down by the, the Mormon Church, and usually there are people who were defectors and stuff like that. So we don't know yet, and I'm not seeing any results at all. And I know that they're closed. All the polls are closed. It's 9:20, and this is all West. Yeah. And so don't know. Clinton won and has 40 delegates. I mean, okay, if this happens in every single state from now on, she's lying. There's something. You don't start out that strong. Now, I have to say, because I remember Sanders from when my mom was his supporter. So I never expected he would get anywhere near this far. But I have to say that part of the problem is the media blackout. These are not my words, but they're absolutely true. You can see her and Donald Trump any day of the week. You want to look at the media, they're always there. If you try to look for him, you have to make an effort. Most of it is not going to show up. A lot of it will just show up online, and it's not like finding her. She's always there, and they will, of course, they'll interrupt him for Donald Trump. They'll preempt him for Donald Trump. The famous thing last week was they were leaving an empty stage for waiting for Trump while he was giving an important speech. The media is not interested in a Bernie Sanders presidency at all, which is strange. I mean, the strangest thing I see is that we are losing people who should be really interested in radicalization, which we need. Now, I mean, you make money in entertainment. I mean, I did. I remember being an entertainment designer, and I was making what I called stupid money. I really felt like an idiot making that kind of money. It was a lot of money. You've heard me say this many times. And, why should someone who makes advertisement be paid more than a doctor? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so I can understand why they wouldn't want to change this system, because under Bernie Sanders, perhaps they won't make more than really should be made by someone making, doing the kind of work that we do. Okay. But there's something so strange. I mean,
I think that some people are actually afraid to. I mean, I think many people are so used to voting for the lesser of two evils, or holding their nose and voting for someone they're sure will win. I think sometimes the voting is out of fear.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm sure of that. But at some point, that's the truth. Yeah, that is a lot of it too. Not all of it. Because a lot of the people there's some of the people I've spoken to who are real heavy Hillary crats. They're not afraid that Bernie Sanders is going to win or Trump. I don't think anyone who's really smart thinks whether they went to college or not thinks Trump has a real chance. Nor do I think a lot of people, as Michael thinks, is that is Trump even real? Is he even a real candidate compared to the other candidates we've got? Because as everyone knows, he he hung around with the Clintons. They went to his wedding. That's according to Bernie Sanders and the news. He's not. Um, that's my hat. I keep having to move it around. That's my cat. um,
We both have cats.
I know, but yours are.
Mine is hiding though.
Yeah, you.
Anyways, I'm a tree, so what can I say?
Yeah, and my cat is behind me because she sits there all the time.
She's
And
pretty.
she is indeed, but she'd be nicer if I could just stick her right here so you don't have to look at me. But sometimes I look right, but I bet it is lighting better, but it doesn't matter right now. I'm despondent by some of these things that are happening, and I think it's sincerely and severely important that even if we don't get what we want out of this election, what I would do now is send Sanders supporters to the polls to make sure to check them, to make sure that there is no what's the word, fraudulent activity going. Meaning, I would send, just like they do like Jimmy Carter used to do in third world countries, where they had contested elections. We've got to send, little tiny packets of Sanders people over there to make sure everybody has enough ballots, that the lines for Sanders voters aren't 800 miles long, that people are not wearing T-shirts that look like they're for just general Democratic Party, but actually wind up being for Hillary. That Bill Clinton isn't standing there as an ex-president in the middle of a polling place where he can, of course, allowed to stand. He can't poll, he can't, politic for her, but he can stand there. And all he has to do is stand there. He doesn't have to, wear a button. He's got one of the most famous faces in the world. We all know what it is, who he is, and who he's for. We know damn well, that she has plenty on him.
Yeah.
I get so frustrated with this because I know what it is, or at least a little of what it is, and I'm sure it's just the same thing over and over. He has inhaled. It may not have been pot, but he inhales.
And nobody cares about that now.
They shouldn't have cared about it in the first place, because everyone's inhaled one time or another, or mostly everybody,
Or inhaled and choked.
Yeah, or was prescribed too many painkillers, like a certain 86-year-old, we know.
Yes, indeed.
And then end up having to, basically become addicted to them and then not be allowed to have any more. This is one of the most despicable things I've seen in a while, and this is an 86-year-old woman, 87 or 86, I don't remember, she's yours.
87.
And
she was overprescribed in the beginning,
right.
And then now underprescribed and has to live with chronic pain.
This is despicable stuff that Hillary has no interest in changing and will not change. But Bernie Sanders has as a plank in his platform in the war on drugs. And with the end of the war on drugs ends that. When we're so worried about the overprescription of prescription painkillers, end the war on drugs. Suddenly, there will no longer be this desperation for an excessive amount of pain medication. People will just, medicate the pain they have. If you teach, because I'm very good at this, don't ask me why, it's probably why I'm alive. But if you teach people, or they teach themselves, but if you teach people how to take small amounts of pain meds when you start taking pain meds, because you're going to have to build up, which you will eventually, and then, ration. If it's legal, it's a lot easier to ration it.
Also, it's knowing what to do to affect, if you told me, knowing what will effectuate the pain meds so you use less.
Yeah, it's really, and these foolish ideas, and you're very much involved in alternative medicine, but these incredibly foolish ideas that meditation is going to take away trigeminal neuralgia, for example, which is something I have, and which can be set off. It's excruciating. and which can be, I've had it since I was 8, off and on. And which, I can set it off by putting my hat on wrong or putting makeup on. It's up here. And, you know, to decide that meditation or a leave and meditation will do anything for this particular headache. For anyone who's ever had a serious root canal or a bone infection in their face, which I've had also, so I know, it's very much like that, only it can go on and on and on and on for 40 days more. The worst one I had was about 35 days. 35 days of the kind of pain you get from a severe root canal without stopping. And they think meditation is going to cure it. End the war on drugs so people can be medicated appropriately. But this is my big issue. I have 2 issues. Most of my issues are really moral panic issues, and that's why I started this channel in the first place, and why I was going to do it even before the Bernie Sanders candidacy. Because nobody talks about moral panic issues in the way they need to be discussed. I mean, we're living in the age of McMartin 2, which would never have happened without McMartin 1. But for the sake of Bernie Sanders, I'm not going to go on about that now because it's so controversial. And,
I think that from what I'm seeing online, even though I don't even know if they've finished counting everything, Clinton has been declared the winner in Arizona.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay, so
I picked it up.
Yeah.
Next time I'll light myself better because I actually look really good today, and not with the lighting, but which is very frustrating. But no, I've seen that she's winning in Arizona, and they've got 21% reporting it's not moving at all, and he's got 16 delegates. Watch the delegates.
Yeah.
The delegates. Watch them because the delegates. She's controlling. She's controlling the delegates. Her and her team are controlling the delegates, and that's a big, huge. Because as we've talked about, as other people have talked about, super delegates are bought by they buy their way into the Democratic Party. They buy their way into their position as super delegates. That's what it's about. It's connections to the Democratic Party that give you more votes. I mean, I can't remember how many votes precisely a superdelegate has compared to the average person, but I believe it's something like a superdelegate is worth 300.
Hang on, I'll look that up.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you go on. I'll look up superdelegates.
So I'm going to put on. I'll put on. I slept in an arcade, which is not offensive to anyone except for people who hate porn. And you know what? If you want to, nobody's going to sue me for this movie. My God, Jeff Isaac was my boyfriend. Friend. They're really close friends. I only play people either I know or my family. Most of whom, including me, are dead. So anyway, I say that when it can be. I promise you, by the way, I look really good in the other. I'm very frustrated with this. Maybe when I play Randy, I'll put on some other guy. I'll change the lighting. Oh, here, it's the first one up. Let's hope there's no YouTube commerce on top of it. But of course there is.
Macy's Wednesday with the preview date.
We're gonna shut Macy's up until they're ended. I never go to Macy's. Once in a while, I'll go to Blue. Then I've now turned down.
I think when I was looking through, when I was just kind of doing a quick look over it in the Wikipedia article on super delegates, the biggest difference I think is that they are not obliged. They can choose who they want to pledge themselves to as a delegate. They don't. Let's say they don't have to vote the way people are voting. They have this extra. I mean, it's a very bizarre system, but they have this extra freedom to choose where they're going to go. So they kind of have this extra layer of separation from the actual voters. Now, how they're chosen is usually, again, this article says they're chosen based on the positions they hold, or they're selected by the state. So they're really part of the. I would say they sound like they're not just somebody off the street. They're somebody who's deeply involved in upper echelons of the Democratic Party. So you kind of figure where their leanings are.
Yeah, and how many people who are able to buy their way into the upper echelons of the Democratic Party, because that is what it obviously is, are
Yeah.
going to support Bernie Sanders, who's very much against buying your way into anything.
Well, he's criticized. He actually was criticizing the superdelegates, and Hillary Clinton and Clinton is for them.
Of course she is.
Yeah.
Because they're all going to be for her. And because superdelegates are the quintessential
Insiders.
yeah, exactly. Precisely. You got it better than I did. There are the insiders of the Democratic Party. And when we say that we do not want, the exact same things we've always had, with everyone being, um, with everyone being, we don't want the insiders. We want it to actually be a people's government. We have to get rid of superdelegates. We can't do it now. And because there's all sorts of fishy things going on right now, all of which are in the favor of Hillary Clinton. More than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is just winning. Excuse me.
Here's another. I was trying to speed read this article. Now it says Clinton supports as a wise policy. Superdelegates is a wise policy to maintain steady, experienced governance, and Sanders supporters say it's thwarting the will of the people. Yeah, and I think it's worth reading up for anybody. Like, I'm not doing the greatest job on it tonight because I'm trying to speed read and talk about it at the same time. But it's I find it kind of a confusing thing, which I don't think was covered when I was taking civics. Of course, let's see, superdelegates are back to 68. So I think by the time I took civics, they had them. I didn't remember this being discussed, but it is something that people should know about. And I feel like I've been kind of ignorant.
I think when we were younger, when I was a kid, in the 70s or even 80s a little bit, I don't think they were that bad. We were really worried, especially in the 80s. We were really worried about Ronald Reagan getting the presidency. We weren't too concerned about, in this case, with Ronald Reagan, who was very capable of getting the presidency, unlike the possibility of Donald Trump, who may or may not be able to get it at all. I think it was Kennedy versus Carter, and Carter was the president, but Kennedy was obviously more of an insider. But either one of them was okay. This is when I remember the first election that I actually remember. I think. I mean, I remember the Nixon ones because my parents were so angry. But I was a little kid in '72, and I just
Some of
remember
them I remember just because I was born in 1954. So the 18-year-olds got the vote about the time that Shirley Chisholm was running in the primaries. Now, since then, it's been kind of a letdown, but I being older, I do know that I remember her running. But honestly, I just don't remember encountering the notion of superdelegates till much later.
I don't either. And what I was good at, people with 200 IQs, I always say something about this because it's my channel's name and it is true. Aren't I lucky? And we have parlor tricks. We have things that we do that this is not a complimentary thing I'm saying. It's just a true thing I'm saying. Every prodigy child has something the prodigy does. And one of the things that I did was I understood the political system very young. Well, why? Because my whole family was involved in it. But I really understood it. And I could come up with ideas for candidates and why we should vote for somebody or not vote for somebody. And I would probably even then I knew more about it than I do now because it was such an obsession of mine. And I didn't know about superdelegates. And that means to me that they were not considered the nightmare that they have turned into. We didn't have a democratic machine until very recently, unless you want to consider the Kennedy family a democratic
Well,
machine.
what about Daley in Chicago? Would he have been considered?
Yeah, but that's
but they weren't so widespread. I mean, they weren't so big. They may have be citywide, statewide, but not.
Yeah, it's like what ruined the unions. I mean, union people were not usually Republican. You can't be a Republican, but you can still have fecal float. It doesn't matter what you are. You know, you can be Stalin. You know, fecal float. Up the shit floats to the top. Excuse me, that's my mother talking. You know, my mother talked like that more
Your
than
mother had a way with words.
yes, she did. And you can, I will call it fecal float, but you will still have that, and you had that in the Democratic Party in the '70s and the '80s. You know, the '80s, the Democrats are kind of washed out because you start with I think Mondale and
Walter Mondale.
yeah, and Shirley, not Shirley Chisholm. You know what her name is better than I do because you remember it better. His running mate.
Okay, now I've completely blanked out. Pardon me while my brain's just.
Geraldine Ferraro. There you
Yes, Geraldine Ferraro.
you know, and she was interesting as a running mate, but especially as actually the first woman potential president. She was better than Hillary Clinton for that because, for one thing, it wasn't her goal.
Who was it? The woman who ran for president, Virginia, was it Virginia Hull? Ran for president way back in the 18s?
Oh, you mean Virginia Woodhull?
Woodhull, yes.
Oh, and I can't remember if Virginia is her first name or not. Victoria Woodhull. There you go.
Victoria, that's it.
Yeah, she was more like me. Lots of fancy makeup, too many men that cause trouble, that kind of thing. And big mouth and very, very unconventional. Okay, Victoria Woodhull. Yeah, and she was really interesting. If you want, I have some books on her. And it was her and her sister that they became the first women stockbrokers, and they had a lot of control over Cornelius Vanderbilt. It's a long story, and not one that has anything to do with
That's true, but I mean, there were women running for president who I think were taken somewhat seriously or scarily before. Yeah,
Virginia Woodhull wasn't taken that seriously. She was taken slightly seriously.
slightly, because she was scary.
Yeah, because I mean, at first, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony liked her, but there was this is such a complicated story. There was this huge split with Tilton and what was the other guy? Much more important. The brother, I think, of Harriet, the one who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. So that's Harriet Beecher Stowe, correct?
Yeah.
So this was Beecher. That was his name. And he was a very, very important minister, like Billy Graham. And he was also, he had the Clinton problem, except without the insufflation. He had the Clinton problem with the not keeping it in his pants.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and
that
so
was not a good era for that.
No, it was not, especially then. And this is real, and it's a long story. I mean, if people want to hear me talk about Victoria Woodhull, I'll have to read.
Either that, or I have a cat trying to run across my keyboard.
They do that. Mine just sit here with me because they expect that they will be handed, bits of glory known as Whiskers Temptations. There's a commercial I am giving you for free that I heartily endorse, except that it costs a lot of money after a while when they want a bag a day, and which they do. Let me see if there's any more results. And again, I apologize for this lighting. I'm just learning. I used to run a video lab, so I know how to do all this, but it's been so long.
It's an adventure.
I hate looking bad, so please take that into account. And actually today I look pretty good. And so if this is lighting, I was surprised that I actually looked much better than I usually do. This is lighting, I'm sorry. I thought that if I put the ring light this way, but it didn't help. I need to figure out how to redo the ring light. And then also, I haven't done anything with my face. I haven't been in front of a camera in many years, many years. And so,
interesting. Arizona, it says now there's 24% reporting. So it would be really interesting to see if anything changes by morning.
It really would be. And yes, I know you're there. I haven't forgotten. My cat is climbing on my chair. She does.
I see her right behind you. Over your
Yes, yes, she doesn't understand why I'm talking into a box instead of looking at a cat. Because it's a box, not a cat. What interests me, which is very strange, is that all along this time, Idaho and not Idaho, other states have reported at the same time as the ones that.
Is it because they're smaller or maybe a difference in infrastructure?
I don't know. It's weird because when we've been watching it all along, I would say that every single time we've watched an election, and if there have been multiple states, we've heard reports from all of them, right?
Right.
And if you had like the last one, the horrible Super Tuesday one, you had all those states that were running. You'd get reports from Illinois at the same time you'd get them from Ohio, at the same time you'd get them from South Carolina, at the same time you'd get them from Virginia. And so now, I believe, because I always check this, that Idaho and Utah and Arizona, the polls closed all within a half an hour of each other, and they're all Pacific time, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm not seeing too much coming from the other places.
At all. I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Perhaps we should shut this down for a few minutes and then see if we can do something. I can fix my lighting. I can put on a jacket. It's really windy. Is it windy over there?
Yeah.
And I can apologize once more for how horrible I look. One of these days, I will have the lighting down. I was a photographer for a long time after I was in front of the camera, so I was behind it. But I do not know how to light myself anymore. Look at that. I don't have jowls. I really don't. It's where this stuff comes from. Light. I don't want to do that. Anyway, what I'm going to do now, and also, I have the biggest hooters known to humankind. That's what that is. But the rest of me is not so huge. So it's always very embarrassing. That's why I'm wearing like a turtleneck today. I'm sick and tired of it looking like it takes up the entire space of the room. It doesn't. It's Christina Hendricks got nothing on me. Anyway, I'm going to put on I Slept in an Arcade, and then I'm going to shut us down for a few minutes, and I'll put up the new stream when we go. Okay, I'll call you on the phone, and we'll see if we can fix something. So let's do that. You can log out or whatever you do. You can hang up.
I'll just hang on.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put Randy on. I'm gonna put a hat over this, and so you don't have to look at my horrible face with this terribly, and we can listen to Randy, which is good no matter what. It's a purple hat this time.
Mama saw me in there, let's take it high. I needed to move that I tried to set up time. Some of the movement didn't make any sense. Still can't have it at a front for 25 cents. I slept in it again. 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 I saw some cheeks and I saw God. There are the sevens that picked the one. And in the yellow season there was rock. Before they find out dog and a big rubber pond. I slept in it again. 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 I won't patrol that great big street. I want to put my the old feet. Joe told me mama was my maid. Last next forever like lemonade. I slept in it again. 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 There was a dog in 24 feet. Working at that California every day. I took his morning with that beat. Yes, I never defended him off the three. I slept in it again. 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 stepped in the game. I stepped into the game. I stepped into the game. I stepped into the game. Song came before I got much strength. Traveled outside of the hated west. I blinked my eyes, I couldn't see. Everybody there looked at me. I stepped in the game. I stepped in the game. I stepped in the game. I stepped into the game.
Okie dokie, that was Randy, and it was let's see, Randy, are you over? Yeah. That was
From Past the Dust, I think I'm Bowie.
yeah, it's one of my favorite records ever, and you put the Alley Cats on next if you want. But we were talking, and it was also like as cheap a light show as possible, because I realized you could see the inside of my hat if I stop that. Oh, this one I tried to get wrong. That's another one I can play, because that's about the valley and the cops in the valley, and I know all about that. I got, Bobby was in and out of jail for a minute. It wasn't due to the cops in the valley and the war on drugs. I mean, as the person I've been watching the most lately, what's his name, Lee Camp said, by 2100, if we keep arresting people the way we have been, everyone in the United States will be in jail. Don't we need to think about these things just a little bit? How much? Well, since we should be talking about the election, and I should be talking about one of the other things, the issues that interest me, and the issues that I think are crucial for everyone to care about at this point in time, are the moral panic issues, the drug issues, the teenagers having sex with other teenagers issues. There's a really good talk by Judith Levine, who anyone who's interested in moral panic issues should look up, about how many teenagers, that an enormous percentage of people on the sex offenders registry are teenagers who had sex with other teenagers that are within 2 to 3 years of them, something like that, and are now on the sex offenders registry for at least 10 years, if not for life. Now, these are the kind of issues that really compel me when I'm not worried about the election. I'm usually never worried about, whether a Democrat or Republican wins, because you're usually not that disparate. But right now, if we have one person in the race who could elevate our country once again to a country with values, which we have no longer. And that's why I'm so overexcited by, maybe, so compelled by this race. It's the most important election of my lifetime. And it's very frightening to me to see it be controlled, I believe, by corruption. And I do believe that it is being controlled by corruption. I have very little doubt that at least 50% of what's going on is enmeshed corruption from the media, from the DNC, from whatever Hillary Clinton has on people. What is in those emails? I didn't used to care about them any more than Bernie Sanders did. But now I'm thinking, well, what is in them? Why can't she show us what's, why can't she show her speeches? If she believed it 3 months ago, she doesn't believe it now? Why did she say it 3 months ago? How quickly do your beliefs change? How quickly do most people's beliefs change? Honestly, change. They don't. And then I was thinking, when I put together my group on Facebook, because there wasn't a punks for Bernie, and I figured, well, there's the two things that matter to me the most in the world, is my old culture and my old people, many of whom have died, especially a lot of them that meant a lot to me. They were the ones who died. And leftist politics, particularly in this case in the form of Bernie Sanders. So when I put my group together, I realized I'm posting all this folk music You know, to understand what I'm going to say, you have to understand that I grew up as the child of folkies. If you don't know what a folkie is, and I don't think a lot of people do, even though the Coen brothers, I think, made that movie about Britsville City, my parents were like that, if you know what it is. And they're, let's call them somewhere in between the Beats and the hippies. Let's call them pre-hippies, kind of. That's what my parents were. And they were extremely radical left. A lot of folkies were on the very, very far left, as left as it gets, farther left than Bernie Sanders. I know most people don't realize there is a farther left than Bernie Sanders, but there is. And that's what I come from, extreme left. And I realize here I am, I'm putting out folk songs and folk songs and folk songs that nobody in a punk rock group is going to really care about. And then I put up Nina Simone singing Mississippi Goddamn, and I put up, all sorts of things that aren't really punk. Even though I'm first gen punk, and it's people from first gen punk are the ones I care the most about. I put up this stuff, and I thought, there's a point to my story. And I thought, look, this is who I am, because this is who I was born. I was born into this. And then I thought, well, Hillary Clinton was born into being a conservative, or reasonably conservative Republican, who cared nothing whatsoever about civil rights and in fact was against them. It does not go away what you were born. You can fight it off. You can fight it down. I do with a lot of the other stuff, the violence in my house, whatever. And you do what you do with some of the, when you're fighting with Junior about I don't know all the names of the saints and the Paul of someplace, Tarsus.
Paul of Tarsus. Yeah. Every time he's brought up in any kind of sermon, I always want to stand up and give a rebuttal. I think if one does change their ideas. I remember that, say, Dennis Kucinich discussed how he came to change some of the ideas he had, say, on reproductive rights. Now, he was real honest and said, this is what I came from, and this is what changed my mind. If someone changes, I think they if they've really changed, they're going to say, this is how I changed, instead of pretending it doesn't exist, saying where you come from and how you got to where you are now.
But she can't do that.
Yeah.
This is why I changed. I changed because I'm seeing that the polls are saying Bernie Sanders' idea is being accepted more than mine. So I'm changing so I can say that I have his idea. You can't change. You can't say that. And that's all she has to say.
Yeah.
And it's still, whoever, look at there's Dennis Kucinich. He was raised Catholic. It's still in him, the Catholicism. You know what I'm saying? The Catholicism is what made him anti-abortion in the first place. You can change your ideas, but who you grew up as is there. And now, you fought your Catholicism a whole lot more than I fought my background.
Actually, I went screaming over the wall.
I know. Your background was really difficult. I mean, mine was politically and intellectually was not. The violently it was really bad, but we all know my father, and it's made me twist my hat around because and he's dead, and he was very violent, and but intellectually and culturally, my background was really interesting, so I didn't have to. So I see who I am now. I also see Hillary Clinton, who is a Goldwater Republican until she's in her early 20s, when she sees that the winds are blowing in the other direction. She's a very ambitious woman, so she's going to join the other party. Not only that, but the most attractive man in her purview is the one who became president and who has certain very typical 60s problems, let's say. 70s, 60s, 70s problems that he can indulge because he has the money to do it. And he's not going to go to jail because she's, even though we know, and we do, there's a lot of people who she's, he's not going to go to jail. He's got the money to keep himself out of jail. I know because I come from entertainment industry background, I know all sorts of horrible stories about people that I'm not going to tell. And I know how they keep out of jail. Money will keep you out of jail. There's no question. Soul fame and serious fame. Minor fame, moderate fame, no. Serious fame will. And if somebody doesn't want to make an example of you, like they did it with people, and which should never have happened at all. That was cruelty. Um, at any rate, I don't remember where I was going, and I did. Oh, what I do remember. I'm tired, but I remember. I was going to say that I do not believe that her republicanism is completely gone from her. I think it is still in her system.
Well, she is one of the most sort of centrist, right-leaning Democrats. And when you look at some of the things, like some of the policies that she was involved with, they aren't really very progressive.
She's the one who's
crime bills, the crime bills,
oh,
the so-called welfare reform.
right. The TPP. She's the one who's pushing for the TPP.
Yeah.
Obama, who should know better, is pushing very hard for the TPP. And the Trans-Pacific pipeline is correct. Am I wrong? I mean,
Yeah.
I've got it, Nick. Is NAFTA times 1,000? We're losing. I remember one thing about Dennis Kucinich, even though you were very much more involved with him than I was, which is that he said at one point that he wanted to keep American jobs for Americans, but not in the way that Mexican people can't come over the border, or Canadians even if they want to, or immigrants. He didn't mean that. He meant that he did not want to have all of our tech support in India. And then he said something like, if that makes me a protectionist, then I'm a protectionist.
Yeah.
And why should we give all of our jobs to other countries? The TPP will do that. It will give many jobs away. It will allow, correct me if I'm wrong, but it will allow all, because it's specific, it will allow all sorts of Asian countries to bid on government contracts, for one thing, and for another thing, not just to take tech support and fairly low end jobs away from American people who are having a hell of a time with unemployment. It will allow things like programming jobs to go to these jobs that design jobs, anything can go. It puts no brakes on the amount of jobs that can be switched.
Also, the jobs aren't necessarily going places that have good track records as far as labor and labor organizing.
Yeah, and instead of letting in poor immigrants who are desperate, it will let in rich immigrants again. So you've got rich people fighting for, say, the jobs I would do, or you would do. Like I was a graphic designer for many years, and so I have enough people who think, I'll never forget the "Can You Doodle" commercial. Can you doodle? It's like, do you doodle when you're at work, when you're bored? It's like, you can be a graphic designer and think, oh my God, my job's going out the window. I make, X amount of money. Somebody's going to take $12 an hour. I'm not working. And it turned out very much, that was right before 9/11. And that was what really did it, that nobody wanted advertising God, do I hate doing advertising, but I loved Photoshop, but I hated advertising. So it was a contradiction. I loved fashion, but I hated commercials. There you go. And so, but it caused a lot of trouble. That was the other thing that people are screaming a little bit about now, which is the pay colleges, the ones you pay for that don't require any sort of admissions process except for money. And that was when those people started giving a lot of training to people who really were not appropriate for the jobs that they trained them for, or were too poor, or too unconnected, or too confused, or didn't know enough about college to get into regular university. That's true too. When we make fun of the pay entrance colleges, we have to also include the fact that there are a lot of people who don't know how to get into college, who don't understand, the admissions process. They don't understand that they have to have good grades in high school. And Robbie was like that. He didn't understand what college was. He didn't know what a junior college was. He didn't know how to get into a university. He was extremely unhappy about this. I mean, he he had made more money than most college people I know ever do by being a musician and also by being other things. And I don't mean drugs that I'm not going to mention because it would veer the conversation in a crazy direction. But no, that was legal, and he did make a lot of money from it, and for both. From both.
Oh, okay. I've got some update here. Arizona now has 32% reporting. She's still listed as one. Idaho, they still say results will be available soon, and Utah has 1% reporting.
With no delegates or anything left.
Yeah, yeah. So it's only Arizona so far.
There's also this bizarre thing that I'm looking at Arizona, and what the percentage of delegates and votes for Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, as far as I can tell, hasn't changed at all. Now, we've been looking at this since it was 4% reporting, and it was 60.1 and 37.3, and she had 40 delegates and he had 16. Mm-hmm. How does that work?
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to change after they finish reporting. Yeah, the math isn't working.
No, it's confusing. Now, this is probably just a reporting sort of thing, where the Google or whatever it is, AP, Associated Press, is giving us, it hasn't moved its delegate count or its percentage of votes count up. But it's really strange that someone would have suddenly somebody would definitely be the winner, but their percentage of votes has not changed in the last 28%. I mean, that, because I'm looking for irregularity in the Hillary Clinton voting binge, all of a sudden it's a binge. You know, she couldn't do this against Obama. She could not do that. And at that point, let's remember, this is not 2012 Obama in his second term. This is 2008 Obama, who would have been the first, not only black president, but the first president that was a product of miscegenation, meaning a black parent and a white parent, which used to be illegal. It was illegal for generations, decades. And okay, so he's going to win easier than Bernie Sanders? I mean, yes, a lot of people dislike Jews. That's true, but I don't think that's this. I think that was the real contest, and this is not. This is a coronation. Oh, I am angry about it. I am angry about it. Are you getting anything else?
I was poking around trying to see if we're getting anything. I've still got, like 1% Utah. I don't see too much else. It could be these are just smaller states because we were looking at bigger ones before, so maybe they just don't get it in that quickly. I don't know.
I don't know. It seems strange.
Yeah. I don't know how quickly they get the results or gotten back. But
right now,
I'm
going to put the feed in because I look so horrible in it. It's driving me crazy. And I really should look better. Now I made myself into a target because people had told me how horrible I look, but I already know. It's the lighting. Because I saw myself earlier today and I looked really good. I have to change my lighting. I'm going to take the feed down so I can do that because I am so frustrated with it. And
I'll make coffee.
Okay. And I'm going to have something to drink because I'm thirsty. Anyway, I will give you some more black brandy, and the feed's going to go down as soon as I do that. I want my face to look like my face, not like the big, whited out pink light.
Are we coming back again tonight, or is this it for tonight?
We might come back. It depends on if there's any kind of upset. And let me see.
I'm keeping a separate window to try to figure out if anything changes.
Yeah, I am too. You know what I'm going to play? Actually, instead of Randy, I'm going to play the Alley Cats because that was supposed to come up anyway. Too much junk, and I swear to God. Oh no, but I'll play this. Those songs about drugs. I swear to you, until the last decade or so, I thought I've listened to the Alley Cats for years. I've seen them times, a long time ago, and I thought too much junk was stuff like in my apartment.
It does sound like clutter.
That's what I thought it was about. I spent enough time married or common-law married to somebody who he didn't do junk at all. He hated it. But I understand drug stuff a lot more. Okay. The last thing I'll say now is there's only one candidate who has ended the war on drugs platform. It isn't. And ending the war on drugs would save the country. And it sounds very strange, but the war on drugs makes victims of us all. You know, not just the people who die of drugs because they do, but now the people who can't get painkillers because because of inflated painkiller addiction panic. I know because my bridge, which you can see, needs to be fixed, and in order, I have trigeminal neuralgia, which is I'm not going to talk about it. It's awful, but in order to get 12 Vicodin to work on my teeth, which
Oh, that's an adventure.
yeah, we have to go across. We have to go from Pasadena, where my dentist is, to West LA, because there are no pharmacies in between that have 12, count them, 12 Vicodin. And I always have to keep a little bit more for the next appointment. And I have thousands of dollars worth of dental appointments to work on. I've been working on them. Now, this is insane. So, the two songs I was going to play were about the war on drugs, and I tried. This is a great one. So I'm gonna go out with this. One candidate is against moral panic, including the war on drugs. It isn't the one who's winning. All right, we'll be back.
And now you got it. I get sick, they think that's nice. All of this, the secret skies. I wanna let you stop. I wanna be a cop. Because it's they sit in the dark. They know they're feeling me. With every answer, I know that I can't wait. I'm gonna pop the phone and I won't work it anymore. Yeah. Where in the dark, I wanna be a guard. Where in the dark, I wanna be a guard. Go to school, I study real hard. The day that I finish, I'll build a prison yard. Marijuana is a spark, heroin is the flame. If your fingers hurt, I'll find out who's to blame. Where in the dark, I wanna be a guard. Where in the dark, I wanna be a guard. If you don't say the rock and roll strike. When I put the cuts on, they got that heavy crack. And the words what they play, and the words what they say. When they see my car, tell them who's the star. Wear rubber all suits, just a church. And when I put the cuts on, I'll be sure it hurts. Where in the dark, I wanna be a guard. Where in the dark, I wanna be a guard. But see them dancing, they get in the same place. They'll soon know I'm still working on the case. I am secret keys to Chelsea Hotel. And all the OGs, all the back of hell. Where in the dark, I wanna be a guard. Where in the dark, I wanna be a guard. Just for more week, laugh till then, all we keep. Out here in the valley, there's a lot of residue. Tables gonna turn, hour of the country, I'm your first one, Mr. Monster. Let it party run.
Okay, you got 2 for 1. That was my favorite record. Love that, the whole thing. And we'll be back. See you later. Have a good one.